The bottle of wine cost $237. I watched my father pour it at Capital Steakhouse like it was water, filling my mother's glass until the burgundy liquid caught the candlelight and glowed like blood. My sister, Vanessa, raised her glass for a refill, laughing at something I hadn't heard, her diamond tennis bracelet, early graduation gift, catching every flicker from the chandeliers above. I sat at the corner of the table, water glass sweating onto the white linen, and tried to remember when I'd stopped being part of this family. My father set the bottle down and looked at me with that expression I'd come to recognize over the past 6 months, the one that said, "We're doing you a favor by including you." "Madison," he said, his voice carrying that edge of forced cheerfulness, "we wanted to celebrate tonight. Your sister's graduation, obviously, but also," he glanced at my mother, "we have news." My mother smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "We bought a new car today." The restaurant noise faded into white static. "A car?" I repeated slowly. "A Mercedes GLE," Vanessa added, practically bouncing in her seat. "White exterior, cognac leather interior. It's gorgeous. Dad let me test drive it." My father reached across the table and squeezed my mother's hand. "We've worked hard. We deserve to celebrate our success." I stared at the bottle wine. $237, the same amount I'd been short for textbooks this semester, the same amount I'd called them about 3 times, the same amount they'd said they couldn't spare right now. "Congratulations," I heard myself say. My mother's smile tightened. "You could sound happier for us." I looked at her, really looked, at the woman who'd driven me to piano lessons in a dented Honda Civic, who'd cried in my 8th grade science fair when I won first place, who'd promised me when I was 15 that I'd never have to worry about college because they were saving for it. At the woman who was now wearing a Cartier watch I'd never seen before. "When does my tuition bill come due?" I asked quietly. The table went silent. My father set down his wine glass with a soft clink. "Madison, we've discussed this." "No, you've told me you haven't discussed anything." "The college fund didn't stretch as far as we'd hoped," my mother said, voice tight. "These things happen. You're at Ohio State. You have options: loans, work-study, scholarships." "I applied for scholarships. You told me not to bother with the small ones because the college fund would cover everything." "Well, circumstances changed." "When?" My voice was rising now. People at nearby tables were starting to glance over. "When did circumstances change? Before I bought Mom that watch? Before after Vanessa's spring break trip to Aruba?" Vanessa's face flushed. "This is so typical. Everything has to be about you." "I'm asking for the money you promised me." "And we're telling you," Father said, voice dropping to that tone that used to make me back down immediately, "that you need to take some responsibility for your own future. We've done our part. 18 years of raising you. Now you're an adult. Act like one." The water glass trembled in my hand. "The tuition deadline is in 3 days. I'm $11,000 short. If I don't pay, they'll drop all my classes." "Then I suggest you figure it out, because we've made our decision." He raised his wine glass. "To Vanessa, and to new beginnings." They drank. I sat there, my college career dissolving in front of me, while my family celebrated the car they'd chosen over my education. I didn't cry, not then. That came later, in my dorm room bathroom at 3 a.m., water running so my roommate wouldn't hear, vomiting from panic until there was nothing left but bile and the certain knowledge that I was completely, utterly alone. My name is Madison Parker. I'm 20 years old, and this is the story of how my family destroyed my future, and how I spent 4 years building something they could never touch. Something that would eventually make them understand exactly what they'd done. I grew up in Dublin, Ohio, a suburb of Columbus where the houses all looked the same and the parents all competed in ways they pretended were subtle. My father, Richard Parker, owned a successful insurance agency. My mother, Catherine, worked in pharmaceutical sales. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. Or so I thought. Vanessa, 3 years older than me, was everything I wasn't. Beautiful, effortless, social, the kind of person who made friends by just existing in a room. She went to Miami University in Ohio, joined a sorority, dated the right people, and called home every Sunday to tell her parents exactly what they wanted to hear. I was quieter, academic. I spent high school in robotics club and AP classes, believing that hard work would be rewarded, that promises meant something. My parents had told me since I was 12 that they were saving for college. They had a whole speech about it. Education is the foundation of success. We're investing in your future. I believed them. Senior year, when I got into Ohio State's computer science program, my father took me out to dinner, just the two of us, and told me I was proud, that I'd never have to worry about loans, that he'd seen too many kids crushed by debt and he wouldn't let that happen to me. You focus on your education, we've got the rest covered. That promise lasted exactly 18 months. The first sign came during winter break of my freshman year. I'd come home for Christmas excited to tell them about my classes, about the coding project that had caught a professor's attention. Instead, I walked into a house that looked different. New furniture in the living room, restoration hardware from the tags I glimpsed before my mother tore them off, a renovated kitchen with marble countertops and appliances that probably cost more than my entire year's tuition. "Wow," I said, setting down my bag. "When did all of this happen?" My mother beamed. "We've been wanting to update for years, finally pulled the trigger. It looks amazing." "Your father closed a huge account," she continued, running her hand over the new granite. "Six-figure commission. We decided to invest in the house." Something cold settled in my stomach. What about the college fund? What about it? Is it still okay with the renovations? My mother's smile tightened. "Madison, the college fund is separate. Don't worry about adult finances." But I did worry, because when I asked my father about it later, he changed the subject. And when I pressed, he got annoyed. "You're at a state school. It's not that expensive. Stop acting like you're entitled to a blank check." I hadn't asked for a blank check. I'd asked about the money they'd promised. But I let it go, told myself I was being paranoid. By sophomore year, I wasn't paranoid anymore. I was right. The fall semester bill came to $13,400. When I called my father to confirm the payment, he sighed like I'd asked him to donate a kidney. "Madison, we need to talk about this." "Talk about what?" "Your expectations. Your mother and I have been discussing it, and we think you need to take on more financial responsibility." My throat grew dry. "I have a part-time job. I'm working 15 hours a week at the library." "That's good, but you should also look into loans. Federal loans have good rates." "You said I wouldn't need loans." "Plans change. Your mother and I have other expenses. Vanessa's graduating this year, and there are costs associated with that. We need to be realistic about what we can afford." "But you promised." "Madison, I'm not having this conversation. You're 20 years old. It's time to grow up." He hung up. I sat in my dorm room staring at the bill and felt something crack inside my chest. They'd lied. For my entire childhood, they'd lied. I took out $8,000 in federal loans that semester. My father covered the remaining $5,400, but every phone call about it was laden with sighs and comments about learning fiscal responsibility. I stopped calling home unless absolutely necessary. Then came that dinner. The Mercedes, the wine. The moment I realized they hadn't just lied, they'd made a choice. My education or their image. And I'd lost. I spent the 3 days after that dinner in a dissociative haze, went to the financial aid office, filled out emergency loan applications, called every scholarship program I could find, knowing I was too late for most of them. The financial aid counselor, a woman named Janet with kind eyes and tired shoulders, looked at my file and shook her head. "You're going to graduate with about $60,000 in debt at this rate. Are your parents really unable to help?" "I'm able," I said. "They're just unwilling." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'm sorry. I see this more than you'd think." That night I called Vanessa. She was the only person who might understand. "Nessa, did they do this to you? With college?" She hesitated. "Do what? Cut you off financially? Make you take loans?" "No, they paid for all 4 years." The words hit like a fist. "All 4 years? You graduated debt-free?" "Yeah. Madison, what's going on?" I told her about the Mercedes, about the tuition deadline, about the loans I was drowning in. She was quiet for a long time. "Madison, maybe you should have chosen a cheaper school. Ohio State is expensive for an in-state school. You could have done community college for 2 years." "They told me not to. They said the college fund could handle it." "Well, maybe they overestimated. That's not really their fault." I hung up without saying goodbye. That night, I stood on my dorm building's roof access. Students weren't supposed to be up there, but the lock was broken, and looked down at the campus below. Thought about how easy it would be to just step off, to make all of this stop. I stood there for 20 minutes before my legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the concrete, sobbing so hard I thought my ribs would crack. I didn't jump, but part of me died up there anyway. The next morning, I made a decision. I would finish my degree, I would graduate, and I would make sure that every single person in my parents' carefully curated social circle knew exactly who they really were. But I had to survive first. I picked up a second job, then a third, worked at the library 15 hours a week, waited tables at a campus restaurant another 20, and did freelance coding work whenever I could find it. I slept 4 hours a night, lived on ramen and whatever free food I could scavenge from campus events, stopped going out, stopped having friends, really, because friendships required time and energy I didn't have. My GPA dropped from 3.8 to 3.3. I stopped caring. All that mattered was making it to graduation. Junior year, I met someone who changed everything. His name was Tyler Chen. He was a senior in my algorithms class, one of those people who seemed to understand code like it was a language he'd been born speaking. We got paired for a project. I expected him to carry the team and resent me for it. Instead, he looked at my work and said, "This is really good. Are you okay?" I blinked. "What?" "You look exhausted, and you're working at like 3 jobs, right? I've seen you at the library and the burger joint." "I'm fine." "You're not, but okay." He opened his laptop. "Let's crush this project." We did, got an A, and somewhere in those late nights coding in the library, I told him everything. About my parents, the Mercedes, the debt I was drowning in. Tyler listened without judgment. When I finished, he said, "My parents were like that too, cared more about appearances than their kids. I cut them off sophomore year. It hurt, but it also freed me." "How do you deal with it?" "I stopped needing their approval, started building something they couldn't take credit for." He looked at me. "You're smart, Madison, smarter than you think. When you graduate, you're going to have options they can't even imagine, and then you'll have a choice. Let them back in, or leave them outside the life you built." "What did you choose?" "I'm still deciding." That conversation planted something in me, a seed of possibility I hadn't let myself consider. What if I didn't need them? What if I could build a life so successful that they'd have to watch from the outside? Senior year, everything accelerated. I focused every remaining ounce of energy on one goal, landing a job at a top tech company. I attended every career fair, applied to 100 positions, practiced coding interviews until I could solve problems in my sleep. In February, I got a call from CodeStream, a fast-growing tech company in Austin, Texas. They flew me out for an interview, put me through 6 hours of technical assessments. I nailed every single one. The offer came a week later, $87,000 starting salary, full benefits, signing bonus of $10,000. I sat in my tiny dorm room staring at the offer letter and cried. Not from joy, from relief. I was going to make it. Graduation came on a warm May afternoon. The ceremony was held in Ohio Stadium, thousands of students in caps and gowns, families cheering in the stands. My parents came, of course they did. They brought flowers, posed for photos, acted like they'd been supportive all along. "We're so proud of you," my mother said, hugging me tight. "A computer science degree, you worked so hard." I stood stiffly in her arms and said nothing. After the ceremony, my father suggested we all go to dinner, somewhere nice, our treat. "I can't, I have plans with friends." "Madison, this is your graduation. Family comes first." I looked at him, at the man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd helped me build my first computer, who'd promised I'd never have to worry, at the man who'd chosen a Mercedes over me. "Family came first for 3 years. You chose a Mercedes, so now I'm choosing me." I walked away before they could respond. I moved to Austin 3 weeks later, didn't tell them I was leaving until the day before. Sent a text. "Moving to Texas for work. Will send new address once I'm settled." My mother called immediately. "Texas? What are you talking about?" "I got a job at CodeStream. I start Monday." "You didn't even discuss this with us." "I don't need to discuss my decisions with you anymore." That's incredibly disrespectful. So was the Mercedes. I hung up, blocked their numbers, started my new life.
Austin was different from Ohio in every way that mattered. The heat was oppressive. The city sprawled. Everything felt faster, louder, more alive. And for the first time since that dinner at Capitol Steakhouse, I could breathe. CodeStream was everything I'd hoped for. The work was challenging, the people were brilliant, and nobody cared who my parents were or what college fund had paid my tuition. I was just Madison Parker, senior software engineer, good at my job, building something that mattered. I lived in a tiny apartment in East Austin, furnished it with IKEA furniture and thrift store finds, ate cheap tacos, and saved every dollar I didn't absolutely need to spend. Because I had a plan now. Tyler had been right. Success wasn't about their approval anymore. It was about building something they couldn't touch. And I knew exactly what I was going to build. 6 months into the job, I got promoted to lead engineer. My salary jumped to $103,000. I celebrated by opening a savings account separate from everything else, labeled it the fund in my banking app. Every bonus, every raise, every extra dollar went into that account. My manager, a woman named Rachel Kim, who'd worked her way up from nothing, noticed my work ethic and pulled me aside one day. "Madison, you're going to burn out if you keep going at this pace." "I'm fine." "You're not. I can see it. Whatever you're running from, it'll still be there when you slow down." "I'm not running from anything," I said. "I'm running toward something." She studied me for a long moment. "Just make sure it's worth it." A year after graduation, my father called from a number I didn't recognize. I should have let it go to voicemail. Instead, I answered. "Madison." His voice was strained. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About this distance. Your mother is devastated. Vanessa says you won't return her calls. This has gone on long enough." "What do you want, Dad?" "I want my daughter back." "You had your daughter. You chose a car over her." "That's not—" He stopped. "We made a decision we thought was best. You're punishing us for one mistake." "It wasn't one mistake. It was years of lies. It was prioritizing your image over my future. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing when it mattered." His voice hardened. "You know what? You've always been selfish. Even as a kid, always needed to be the center of attention." I laughed. It came out sharp and bitter. Is that what you tell people? That I'm selfish? You're making us look bad. And there it was, the truth under everything. Good, I said. You should look bad. You did something bad. I hung up. This time, I blocked the new number too. 18 months after graduation, I got recruited by Technova, a major tech company competing with Google and Amazon. The offer was staggering: $156,000 salary, $40,000 signing bonus, equity package worth potentially hundreds of thousands. I accepted. The fund grew: $50,000, then $80,000, then $120,000. I lived modestly, saved aggressively, worked obsessively, and I waited. 2 years after graduation, the opportunity finally came. I was at a networking event in downtown Austin when I met Marcus Williams, the founder of a scholarship foundation called Bridge Forward. They provided full-ride scholarships to students whose families had cut them off financially. We focus on kids who slip through the cracks, the ones whose parents make too much for them to qualify for aid, but won't actually help. It's more common than people realize. Something clicked in my mind. How much does it cost to fund a full scholarship? I asked. Depends on the school. For a 4-year program at a state university, we estimate around $80,000 to $100,000 total. I thought about the fund, about the $127,000 sitting in that account, growing slowly but steadily. What if I wanted to endow a scholarship, a named one, with specific criteria? Marcus's eyes lit up. We'd love that. Do you have a cause in mind? I do. It took 6 months to set up. I worked with Marcus and his team to create the parameters: a full-ride scholarship for computer science students at Ohio State whose parents had promised college funding but reneged. Students who'd been forced to take loans because their families prioritized appearance over education. Students who were exactly like me. We named it the Madison Parker Scholarship for Financial Independence. The press release went out on a Tuesday in November, 3 years after that dinner at Capitol Steakhouse. It hit the Ohio State student newspaper first, then the Columbus District, then somehow it spread to local news stations. Local Austin tech worker funds full-ride scholarship for betrayed students. The interviews started immediately. A reporter from the Austin Chronicle asked me point blank, "This seems personal, is it?" I smiled. My parents promised to pay for college. Then they bought a Mercedes instead. I graduated $64,000 in debt, while my sister graduated with $0. This scholarship is for every student whose family chose image over investment. The reporter's eyes widened. Did you tell your parents you were doing this? They'll find out. They found out 2 days later. My phone exploded with calls from numbers I didn't recognize, text messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, and finally an email from my mother. "Madison, what you've done is cruel and vindictive. You've humiliated us in front of our entire community. People are calling your father's office. Friends are asking questions. You've made us look like monsters. If you had a problem with us, you should have come to us privately. Instead, you chose to air our family's private business to the world. I hope you're satisfied. Mom." I read it 3 times. Then I typed a response. "Mom, you made yourselves look like monsters. I just told the truth. Madison." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The calls didn't stop. Vanessa left a voicemail, her voice thick with tears. "Madison, how could you? Do you know what people are saying about Dad? About our whole family? You've destroyed our reputation over money. Just money. Not my education, not my future. Just money." I deleted the voicemail without responding. 3 weeks after the scholarship announcement, something unexpected happened. My father showed up in Austin. I came home from work to find him sitting on the steps outside my apartment building. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, smaller somehow. "How did you find me?" "Vanessa knew your address from when you sent her that birthday card. I'd sent that card in a moment of weakness, regretted it immediately. What do you want, Dad?" He stood slowly, like his joints hurt. "I want to talk. 5 minutes, please." Against every instinct, I let him in. My apartment was small, sparsely furnished, but clean and unmistakably mine. He looked around with an expression I couldn't read. "You've done well for yourself," he said finally. "No thanks to you." He flinched. "Madison, I came here to apologize." "Okay." "I'm serious. What I did, it was wrong. Your mother and I got caught up in keeping up appearances. The Hendersons bought a BMW, so we needed something comparable. The Johnsons renovated their kitchen, so we did too. We got lost in it. You got lost in it for 3 years, while I worked 60 hours a week and ate ramen." "I know." "Do you?" My voice rose. "Do you know what it's like to stand on a roof at 2 a.m. and wonder if jumping would be easier than one more semester? Do you know what it's like to have your own father hang up on you because asking for promised money was inconvenient?" His face crumbled. "You thought about—" "Madison, you never said—" "Why would I say anything? You made it clear I was on my own." He sat down heavily on my IKEA couch. "I'm sorry. God, Madison, I'm so sorry." I wanted to believe him. Part of me, the little girl who'd trusted him to keep his promises, desperately wanted to believe him, but I couldn't. "Why now? Why apologize now? Because you embarrassed me? Because your friends at the country club are asking questions? Because I saw the scholarship announcement and realized what I'd done to you, how much pain I'd caused, and I couldn't live with myself anymore. You lived with it fine for 3 years. I was lying to myself, telling myself you were being dramatic, that you'd be fine, that everyone takes some loans." He looked up at me, eyes red. "But you weren't fine, and I knew that. I just chose not to see it." The admission hung in the air between us. "I can't forgive you," I said quietly. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking if someday you might let me try to make this right. There's nothing to make right. It's done. I survived. I built a life without you. I know, and I'm proud of you for that. But Madison," his voice broke, "I miss my daughter. You should have thought about that before you chose the Mercedes." He stood slowly, walked to the door, stabbed with his hand on the knob. "I love you, Madison. I've always loved you. I just failed you." Then he left. I stood in my empty apartment shaking and realized something I hadn't expected. His apology didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse, because now I had to carry both the pain of what he'd done and the weight of knowing he regretted it, and I wasn't sure which was heavier. What I didn't know was that my scholarship announcement had started something I couldn't control, something that would consume my parents entirely. It started small, a few friends asking questions at the country club, a couple of sideways glances at church. Then it spread. Someone, I never found out who, shared my interview with the Austin Chronicle in a Dublin, Ohio Facebook group called Dublin Parents Network. The post went viral locally. "This is Richard Parker's daughter, the one they cut off to buy a Mercedes. Maybe we should reconsider who we trust with our insurance policies." My father's business started hemorrhaging clients. Month 1, December. My mother called from a new number, bypassing my blocks. Madison, your father lost the Morrison account today. That's $200,000 in annual premiums because of your interview. I didn't lose his account. His choices did. You're destroying us. I'm telling the truth. If the truth destroys you, that's not my fault." She hung up. 2 days later, Vanessa texted, "Dad's company lost 6 clients this month. He might have to lay off employees. Are you happy?" I stared at the text for a long time. Was I happy? No, but I wasn't sorry either. Month 2, January. I got a LinkedIn message from a woman I'd never met. "Hi, Madison. I'm Sarah Morrison. My husband pulled his business from your father's insurance agency. I wanted you to know why. 15 years ago, Richard convinced us to take our daughter's college fund and invest it with him in a guaranteed return plan. We lost half of it in the 2008 crash. He never took responsibility, said it was market volatility. We paid for our daughter's college out of pocket while Richard bought luxury cars. Your scholarship announcement made us realize we weren't the only ones. Thank you for speaking up." I read the message 3 times. There were others. My parents hadn't just betrayed me, they had a pattern. Month 3, February. My mother's pharmaceutical sales territory got reassigned. Her manager said it was company restructuring, but my aunt told me the truth. Several doctors had complained after seeing the news coverage. They didn't want to work with someone who'd prioritized a Mercedes over their child's education. My mother's income dropped by 40%. Vanessa sent me a furious email. "Mom is barely sleeping. Dad has lost 12 clients. They might have to sell the house. Is this what you wanted? To ruin them?" I wrote back, "I wanted them to pay for my college like they promised. They made their choices. I made mine." She didn't respond. Month 4, March. My father's Mercedes disappeared from their driveway. I found out through a cousin's Instagram story, a photo of a moving truck with the caption, "Hard times for some people." My aunt called me. "Madison, they're selling the car and they're putting the house on the market." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to stop. This has gone far enough." "I haven't done anything since the scholarship announcement." "You started this avalanche. You can stop it." "No," I said, "I can't. Once the truth is out, you can't put it back." Month 5, April. My father's insurance agency closed. Not officially, but he'd lost so many clients that he couldn't afford the lease or his staff. He was working from home now, scrambling to rebuild a reputation that had taken 30 years to build and 3 months to destroy. My mother stopped calling, stopped texting. Vanessa sent one final message. "I hope you're proud of yourself." I wasn't proud, but I wasn't sorry either. Month 6, May. They sold the house, moved to a smaller place in a cheaper suburb, the kind of neighborhood they used to drive through with locked doors. I found out through my grandmother, who called crying. "Madison, sweetheart, I don't understand what happened. Your parents are devastated. They've lost everything." I had a choice. Every step of the way, they had a choice. And so do you. You can choose to be merciful. I am being merciful. I'm not suing them for emotional damages. I'm not going on national television. I'm just living my life and letting the consequences of their actions play out. That's not mercy. That's cruelty. Maybe she was right, but I learned cruelty from experts. Month 7, July. A lawyer contacted me. My parents were threatening to sue me for defamation. I called Tyler, who'd gone to law school after graduating. He laughed when I told him. "Let them try. Truth is an absolute defense. You didn't lie, you just told your story." "They're saying I damaged their reputation maliciously." "Did you?" I thought about that. I don't know anymore. Madison, here's the thing about consequences. They don't care about your intent. Your parents made choices that hurt you. You made a choice that hurt them. Now everyone's hurt, and someone has to decide to stop the cycle. Why does it have to be me? It doesn't, but if you wait for them to stop, you'll be waiting forever. Month 8, August. I got an email from the first recipient of the Madison Parker Scholarship. Her name was Jasmine Rodriguez. She was 19 years old. Her parents had promised to pay for college, then spent the money on a boat. Dear Miss Parker, I don't have words for what this scholarship means to me. I was going to drop out. I was 1 semester away from having to leave school because I couldn't afford it anymore. Your scholarship saved my life. I know there's a story behind it. I know you went through something painful to create it. Thank you for turning your pain into something beautiful. Jasmine. I read the email sitting at my desk at Technova, and for the first time in months, I cried. Not from sadness, not from anger, from something I couldn't name. Month 9, September. My father sent one final email. Madison, I've spent the last 9 months trying to understand how we got here, how I failed you so completely, how my choices destroyed our family. I don't have good answers. I was selfish. I was vain. I prioritized things that didn't matter over the person who mattered most. Your scholarship has helped 12 students this year, 12 kids who would have dropped out, 12 families who now know the cost of broken promises. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back those years of struggle, but I want you to know, I see you now. I see who you became despite me, not because of me. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not even asking you to respond. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry, and I'm proud of you. Dad. I saved the email. Didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Month 10, September. I stood in my Austin apartment looking at the framed photo of the first recipient receiving her award, Jasmine Rodriguez, smiling, holding a certificate that would change her life. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Madison, it's Marcus from Bridge Forward. Hey, what's up? We just got a donation, anonymous, $64,000, the exact amount you said you graduated with debt. My throat closed. Who? The wire came from an account registered to Richard Parker. I sat down slowly. He donated my debt? More than that, he set up a recurring donation, $5,000 a month for the next 3 years, enough to fund another full scholarship. I couldn't speak. Madison, you there? Yeah, I'm here. I thought you should know. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. My father had sold his business, his house, his Mercedes, his entire carefully constructed image, and he'd given the money to students like me. It didn't undo what he'd done, didn't erase the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, or the moment I'd stood on that roof contemplating the fall. But it was something. Month 12, November. 1 year after the scholarship announcement, I got a letter. Not an email, a physical letter handwritten on plain paper. Madison, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to respond, but I need to write it anyway. You were right about everything. The Mercedes, the renovations, the years of lies. I chose image over integrity, and I lost the only thing that actually mattered, you. I can't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that every day for the past year, I've woken up thinking about that roof, about how close I came to losing you in a way that couldn't be fixed. The money I donated doesn't make us even. Nothing will. But I'm trying to become someone who deserves to be called your father again, even if that person never gets the chance. I love you. I'm sorry, and I'm proud of who you've become without me. Dad. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my desk drawer, next to the job offer from CodeStream, next to the scholarship certificate, next to all the evidence of the life I'd built from rubble. I didn't write back, but I didn't throw it away either. 2 years after that dinner at Capitol Steakhouse, I'm sitting in my apartment in Austin, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise. The Madison Parker Scholarship has funded 28 students so far, 28 kids who would have dropped out, 28 families who learned that broken promises have consequences. My parents sold everything, live in a modest duplex now, drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic. They donate to the scholarship fund every month, never miss a payment. We don't talk. Maybe we will someday, maybe we won't, but I'm not waiting anymore. I built a life they can't touch, a career they can't claim credit for, a legacy that has nothing to do with them. And every time a student thanks me for the scholarship, every time someone tells me their story of betrayal and survival, I feel something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe something close. The phone on my counter buzzes. Tyler. Dinner tonight? My treat. Want to celebrate your promotion? I smile. Technova had promoted me to Senior Engineering Director last week, $210,000 salary, more money than my parents ever made in a year. I text back, see you at 7. Then I open my laptop and look at the Bridge Forward dashboard. 28 scholarships funded, 12 more pending, and at the bottom of the page, the recurring donation from Richard Parker, $5,000, paid on time, every month, without fail. It doesn't undo what he did, but it's more than an apology. It's proof that consequences can change people, that sometimes the cruelest thing you can do to someone who hurt you isn't revenge. It's giving them a mirror and forcing them to look. I close the laptop and finish my coffee as the sun climbs higher. Somewhere in Ohio, my parents are waking up in a house they never wanted, driving a car they're embarrassed by, living a life stripped of the image they sacrificed everything, including me, to maintain. And somewhere in that same state, a 19-year-old kid is opening an acceptance letter to the Madison Parker Scholarship, realizing they won't have to drop out after all, that their parents' broken promises don't get to define their future, that someone survived this exact betrayal and turned it into something that saves others. I don't know if that makes me the hero or the villain of this story. Maybe I'm both, but I'm alive, I'm successful, and I built it all without them. That's enough. For now.
So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between your peace and someone else's comfort? Drop your story in the comments. You're not alone. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe to Revenge Retaliate for more real stories about betrayal, boundaries, and what happens when quiet people finally stop being quiet. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes one story is all it takes to realize you're not the villain for walking away. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. And remember, the strongest thing you can say isn't "I forgive you." Sometimes it's just "I'm done." See you in the next story.